welcome. All right, I guess we're going to begin. It's time.
Yes.
Hey everyone, we are, thank you for the begin. We're glad to see you guys here. Thank you for joining us today. We know you have other choices, so we're very grateful for your participation in this. So I'm here with Snigdha today. We are talking about fairness in adversarial fairness in AI. And so Snigdha, do you like to introduce yourself quickly?
Sure. Very nice to meet all of you here in person. I'm glad you guys were able to make it. Like Micki said, that being the first session and having very many options, and also very nice to see a lot of the guys are sitting in the front, so that's great. I'm Snigdha Kaushik. I'm a senior manager at MNP. I lead some of our privacy services part of the practice. My background is predominantly in cybersecurity. I've been in the industry for almost a little bit over 15 years now. I started my work very hands on the keyboard, then slowly pivoting to more risk and process related side of things. So looking forward to our discussion this morning. Micki?
Awesome. Yes, everyone, I'm Micki Boland, and look, I brought my Canadian bling bling today. Love Canada. At the airport, I think it's made in Canada, it's super cool, but probably more expensive than if I had gotten it somewhere else. I'm a technologist with Checkpoint Software Technologies. I work with global system integrators, but I'm always thinking like integrator, mine service platforms, as platforms and systems of systems integration. And then emerging technology, and of course, AI is a big piece of it. I've been in cybersecurity. I've been in IT for about, I don't even want to say, since my military days. And then I've been in cyber for about 20 years, before it was really cybersecurity. So it's very fun. If you guys know, if you like this field, you'll never get tired or bored, or you'll never have any slack time. If you like to learn continuously, then you guys are in the right place. All right. So with that, Snigdha, we were talking about this session and adversarial fairness. And this comes with responsible AI, right? And that is the theme or our thesis right today. But we're kind of talking about in bigger picture, and if you heard the sessions earlier today, it's also about resilience, right? We have the responsibility, we have ethical safety, how we're going to use these things. We have frontier models to worry about. Then we have the cybersecurity aspects, which are super crucial because you can't have resilient, robust, trustworthy, and responsible systems if you don't have cybersecurity as a foundational part of that entire system of systems. So we care about this very much, deeply. And I guess I would like to see if you would tell us a little bit about Canadian kind of legislative actions, things, governance from the client perspective, as well as from a regulatory landscape.
Sure. So really, maybe I'll start with what we're seeing with organizations right now is, AI adoption is accelerating much faster than governance and operational oversight. And that said, a lot of the organizations are deploying Gen AI and agentic AI within their workflows, but at the same time, they're still trying to figure out some of those foundational elements around, governance, oversight, data use, and so on and so forth. And that said, this is where, cybersecurity and data security, privacy, resilience really comes into play. And, it's no longer a separate conversation. A lot of the organizations now, they're dealing with very automated workflows within their environment, and issues, simple as, or maybe not as simple as, weak monitoring or unclear ownership, or even poor data quality can really scale very quickly across these workflows, and as well as the decisions. So in Canadian in Canadian context, what we're seeing is organizations are still sort of operating under the very dynamic and changing environments, with the legislations that we have currently. But there are greater expectations around, responsible use of AI, specifically from your consumers and even your regulators. Although we don't have a specific AI legislation in place, we do have the provincial and the federal level of legislation that does put an emphasis on, how some of these AI solutions and systems are being used, and how the data is being used within those systems while safeguarding, the security and privacy of the consumers.
That's awesome. That was a really big, if you guys were in the previous sessions, that was a big consideration, is data privacy and data sovereignty. And I think that I've also, from clients I work with, that we talk about that last hop problem. Like, if it's agentic AI, there's an agent interacting, or maybe a lot of agents, a swarm, interacting with data sources. Who's looking at that last bit?
Right.
So we kind of come up with this idea of 3 layers of controls. We're not creating a new model, but we are just referencing industry standards. And some of it is human. Of course, it's us. We have people that are data scientists. They're preparing data. They're at least maybe doing some training, looking at data sources, advising the business. There are developers developing AI applications. And then we have culture, oversight, just like in the DevOps community. There wasn't always a big security frame of mind in developer community. I think it's much more so now. But the cultural things, even from the top, with like a chief AI officer to chief digital trust officers, to having like a center of excellence. There are technical controls, which is like policy that you can enforce, and guardrails. And then, there's functional things that are, so you have to have like AI posture. You can see, or is the AI, the applications, the agents, is everything behaving properly within expectations? What is the intention? And then from a posture perspective, how at risk is anything? And then you also have to look at the threat landscape. And that is where we kind of, in our company, we kind of look at enforcing guardrails for the AI, but also doing continuous runtime, agentic AI runtime monitoring to create traces and observability, which will help inform how things are going. So really, as we kind of start shifting from fair to responsibly resilient AI, what do you think about, the concept of having built-in adversarial testing? Are you seeing it? Or are you seeing it with your clients? Are you guys advising them to start working on this?
Yeah, no, definitely. So I think, and I do want to mention some of the 3 layers that you did touch upon. Those
Yes.
are definitely quite important, and we are seeing organizations starting to, conceptually understand what those are. But what they're still trying to figure out is how to consistently operationalize those. So, for example, for mid-sized organizations or even smaller organizations, AI adoption is much faster than the governance that they're able to build around it. There is different teams might be experimenting with different types of AI solutions. They're introducing new data sources. They're creating new types of data and embedding all of those within their environment. But there isn't that one conceptual model or one strategy really that helps them piece together these elements. And this is where you have different types of data that is collected in one context, but now that can be reused somewhere else in a different context without very, very much oversight or limited oversight. And this is where we're sort of starting to see organizations, thinking about embedding security and privacy by design within their processes and doing some of those testings that are required to ensure the models are behaving the way they should be while, safeguarding the information of those individuals.
Yeah, absolutely. Good points all around. So do you guys believe into the concept of trustworthy AI as being more of an overall trustworthy, responsible, and resilient AI is being a goal to go forward with? Are you seeing that in your organizations? You would like to see that? We do have a really nice slide that has all these beautiful things. It really is the end-to-end because there are contexts in different areas, but if you guys are if you have a really good AI teams and you're developing AI applications, that observability is absolutely critical, right? And then this is not just for your AI applications, your AI use. So we have people using AI in the company, right? The company says, okay, you guys can use Copilot, you can use maybe Claude, you can use these things. We're going to put guardrails on those. We know what you're doing. We're going to ensure that you don't leak information, and then we're going to ensure that there's no abuse or bias in the receiving information that we get when we ask for data. We also want to ensure that when we bring that data back, if it's like retrieval augmented generation, we might be pulling from proprietary data sources and mixing that with public data sources. We don't want to leak protected data, right? We want to ensure, so if I'm looking at a medical record for an employee, or do they have health insurance? I don't want to see that. I don't want to see their medical record, right? I don't want that information leaked. So we are really working on that, as well as now you're building your own AI applications, right, in-house to deliver to your customers and your clients. So those, just like any other application, require responsibility, trustworthiness, right? If it's not ethical or your client's going to use it, if you're doing financial, wealth management application, the data that they're getting through the AI is horrible or unethical, they won't be your clients for very long. So it's very important that we talk about all those things. So what do you think, Snigdha, when it comes to, especially as we know, for where AI can be so, agentic AI especially, can do so much for healthcare, for drug discovery, for even high-tech manufacturing. These are, and financial services. How do we ensure that they have kind of the end-to-end considerations?
I think one of the key pieces is really sort of, understanding the data that you're working with. A lot of the organizations right now currently struggle with, getting a good sense of the overall data governance within their organization, the type of data they have, how are they collecting this information, how are they sharing it within internal teams, and how are those teams using that information? Are they creating new data sets from that information altogether? And now that's being repurposed for, a different purpose altogether. So it's really about, getting a sense of the type of data that you have, and then putting some of those guardrails around how that should be used, how that should be stored, and, shared amongst internal folks, but as well as external shareholders as well. And then, of course, there's that layer of AI where, now different teams are using these solutions so differently. And AI not only is now, is very, very much used, but at the same time, it's so evolving. What we're seeing is, data is changing, the workflows are changing, user behavior is changing as well, and of course, business priorities change as well. But really, keeping all of that in mind, it's getting a sense of how these solutions are learning from the data that's being fed into them, but then also, how those solutions are being retrained. Yes. Something I did want to bring up, though, which was quite interesting as I was kind of, preparing for this panel, and something I had read in the past. So there were a couple of organizations, big organizations, that had introduced AI solutions and AI models within their workflows to increase hiring efficiency, part of the processes. But what happened over time using that solution, really, AI learned from some of those behavior patterns in the past, and then started reinforcing some of those biases as part of the outcomes. And what really happened as part of that, there's a couple of lawsuits, big lawsuits that made the headlines in the news. So, it's all about, like you were mentioning, the guardrails is really looking at what data you have, how you're using it, how do you embed the security and privacy by design principles from the upfront rather than more of that reactive approach.
Yes, I would love if you guys would consider I would say, we have infrastructure that we continually improve, refresh, or totally replace. I know a lot of customers that really want to use AI in their OT environment, so operational technology and smart manufacturing, and they have to totally uplift their infrastructure because it's not going to support some of the things that they want to do. So as we're building, if we have to do those things, it's easy enough to throw cybersecurity in the ground floor, in the foundational structure of the high-rise building that we're creating with our AI and agentic AI solutions, whether we're using them to consume or we're actually building those for our clients. Everyone's trying to chase innovation. Everyone is trying to do things that they haven't done before and kind of cross over into new areas and new markets, and they're moving fast. Last year I was saying, agentic AI, the frontier models were obviously very quick, but in terms of building stuff in-house, there was a lot of proof of value, things that I saw, but it wasn't in production because overall, they really didn't understand what is that big picture risk. And I think that's where it comes into, just really quick, is the adversarial fairness or adversarial trustworthiness, where we continually assess. We have to assess from the time the creator, the builder, the human is building the application all the way through where the data is, the last hop where the data is being taken. And we have to provide end-to-end continuity, GRC, cybersecurity, guardrails for policy, and then we have to be able to understand what is the threat landscape, because AI agents now, they can communicate with each other, they can communicate out. There's not really strong governance on having AI gateways yet, starting to be a thing where you can actually put guardrails there. We have an AI firewall, and also for AI data centers, but you have to have this continuous testing. So MIT has a really cool responsible AI toolbox you can assess. We have a platform called Gandalf, and we do a security assessment. In progress, we simulate so we won't break anything. What would you say from your perspective from MNP? Like, what do you think about that on a technical side of not breaking what's already running and not pulling back? But like now it's kind of like an innovation accelerator to be able to assess those things continually.
Yeah, no, I think that's very helpful. One of the things that we've also seen with clients is, like you were just mentioning, that organizations are, of course, adopting AI so quickly without putting some of those guardrails in place. And we've worked with organizations where they have introduced AI solutions within their environment without really understanding what the intent and the use of that solution will be. It's, one day they came to work, they saw the solution was available to the entire organization, and that's where everybody just sort of started. They're like, hey, this is great, but where do we go from there?
Yes.
So it's really about, getting those different teams, different types of stakeholders, whether it's, security, privacy, risk management even, getting them to sort of work together to address some of those people, process, and technology types of risks as well. And again, tied to some of the testing that needs to be done on the models itself, as well as some of, addressing some of the risks related to the threat landscape.
Yes, awesome. We can help you guys. We have advisory capabilities, we have assessments, so please think about that. And if anyone wants to talk, we only have like 2 minutes now probably maybe like a minute. Does anybody have any questions? Or you can come and see us. We're right across when you walk out the door. Our booth is there. But I'd love to hear about what you guys are doing with agentic AI agent identification. We can't really treat them like people, but we need a human, I guess, like your AI agent wrangler. Like, I'm
human
from Texas.
In the loop is what we call them.
Yeah, so they're lassoing the cows or whatever. Thank you. Come and talk to me more about what your philosophy is on that or what you're doing there. And we really appreciate you guys. Thank you for being awesome.